right, good evening. Come in. It's good to see you. So, swatting
There was
flies.
a big one Sunday. I know. Oh, here it is. Look here.
Yeah, there's 3 or 4. I don't.
Big flies too. Yes.
So, for those of you that are with us online, we are in the process of killing flies.
I got a coloring book.
And
book, that'll work.
does the audio sound okay to you on the webcast side? We're working on trying to work some audio things. So, does it sound okay to you? Hey, good evening, Jason. Good to see you.
One now.
Okay, Josh says yes. So, well, it is good to see both you guys. We're a little light here in the worship center tonight. Our Awana kids are painting their Grand Prix cars here in a couple of weeks. So we are a little light on the inside, but it's okay. We will press on. Good evening, Susan. Good evening, Karen. Good to see you. And it's gain's a little bit high. Okay. I'll try not to talk too loud. Truth is, do you know if you can find actually there's 2 channels side by side, and one of them is me and the other is going to be that ambient mic. So you might turn my gain down just a little bit. Yes. It's like halfway or 3/4 to the right. There should be only 2 channels that are unblocked. Look at all the red lights across the top there. And there's one that says me. So we're producing on the fly. On the fly. That's funny. On the fly. Because there's flies. So, yeah, did you turn the gain down? Okay, no. Push the slide back up about where it was. And that should get us there. We won't mess with the channel gain. It'll be okay. So, all right. Ronnie McKinney says hello as he saunders in. And, yeah, there's probably one up there that says gain. And dial it to the left about a half a notch. So, all right. Well, good to see you. Glad that you're here. Welcome to the first Wednesday night of the new time. Now, our government doesn't seem to be able to get a lot accomplished these days, but the Senate has passed a bill that this would remain forever and permanently our time. Now it has to go to the House of Representatives to be voted on. So we might finally have an answer on this soon. So that'd be glorious.
Really gay, really.
No, I like it to change.
Oh, no.
Yeah, you'll have to move. I like it.
Yeah, I don't know where you'd move to now. So,
They did that when they didn't have headlights.
yeah.
Okay, I don't know if anybody's noticed, we have lights now. There's so much light pollution, we can't even get away from it.
That's right. There is a great deal of light pollution. That's true. So, well, it's good to see you guys. Glad that you're here. A few things in the way of announcements. Sunday is our leader installation service, and so that's going to be great. We've got Josh going to be appointed officially an elder, and then Johnny and Bubba will be added to our deacon body. And so that's going to be awesome. And then Palm Sunday communion is not that far off. And then Easter follows after that. So between now and then, we've got the Grand Prix in 2 weeks. And I think the week after that might be the Easter egg hunt. So we are nigh upon it. So those are good things. Prayer opportunities. Remember Buddy and his bride. I'll talk to Buddy tonight after church. He might be online with us. Hey, Caleb, good to see you, brother. He and his bride should be coming back here the next day or so because his grandson's getting married on Saturday. So And Pastor Chet and Melinda began her treatment today, so that's awesome. Sylvia's sister continues to improve, which is a blessing. There's a lot of questions yet to be answered, but we're excited for that. Any other prayer requests that you guys may know of you want to share with us? Of course, Ukraine. Hey, good evening, Linda. Good to see you. Ukraine and all that entails. It's just it's a gut-wrenching thing. So we'll just remember all those in prayer. So, any questions or thoughts on Sunday's message? Questions or thoughts?
Who's your one?
Who's my one? Well, I have a one.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
I have one. So, but any other thoughts, ideas, comments, questions on Sunday? Did you learn anything new? What was that, Jeff? Every Wednesday. I try. Yeah. I'm trying to fight the idea that I just teach so well that there's nothing left. I mean, it's just so good, so thorough, so applicable. What did you learn? Was there anything that you learned or an insight that maybe stood out to you?
Well, it made me think about Jesus whenever he was in the room,
Okay.
and he knows that they're coming.
Jesus is in the room, and yes, he is aware.
Yeah.
He is knowledgeable. Yeah.
And I wonder if maybe 30 seconds prior to, if he's like,
Scooting over.
let's move over.
Y'all can move.
Let's move over
Yeah.
just a little bit. Something's
Yeah.
going to happen.
Yeah, for sure. So, our sermon was entitled "What's Your Mission?" We hear about missions all the time. We support mission efforts and all those things, and it's a phrase inside the Christian vocabulary that can be applied to a lot of things, but it first and foremost applies to us. Are we on mission? So, let me ask you this question: if we were to ask Christians, what is our purpose statement as Christians? How do you think people would answer that question? If you said, what is the purpose statement of a Christian? How do you think that might be answered?
I think a huge majority of them are going to say to be a good person.
To be a good person.
Yeah.
Yeah. We tie a lot
Yeah.
to being a good person. Yeah. What was that, gang? Yeah. What's your purpose? To be a good person. Well, there's so much more than that. I mean, yeah. And that's a good answer. It's just not the best answer. What are some
so
other?
I shouldn't say swing and a miss?
Let's just call it a foul tip or a bunt. Not a necessary swing and a miss. It's not a home run,
Right.
but it's not a strike. It's not a strike three. How about that? So what are some other ways people might answer that question? What is the mission statement as for Christians? You can attend church regularly, which that's a good thing. You can read your Bible. That's a great thing. You can give to important causes. That's a great thing. There's what's that? Oh, that's good. Yes. Jeff, you say that the mission statement of Christians is defined by the list of do not do's. That's really good. Well, what makes you a Christian? Well, I don't steal. I don't dip or chew or date girls that do. As the old cowboy used to say. It is an interesting thing. If we're not careful, we could be more defined by the things that we don't do or we're against, more so than the things that we do and who we're for. And that is, the world sees us as a don't do organization, don't they? Well, I want to have fun. I can't be a Christian because I want to have fun. But we really are there's more we can do than what God prohibits. You know, it really is a pretty amazing truth. So we mentioned Mike's definition on the purpose of the church. The biblical purpose of the local church is to glorify God by worshiping Him. Now, we understand what are the two ways, or let me back up, what are some ways that the church can express worship? If rule number one, or purpose number one, or goal number one is to glorify God by worship, what does that look like? How do we do that? Singing songs. That's right. Make a joyful noise.
Yeah, I was going to say through music.
Okay, music. And that's a pretty wide swath. Music can be a lot of things, you know. Do you guys remember the worship wars? Ronnie, you weren't around for that one.
No,
Oh, man. There's nothing like Christians arguing over which music is more godly. Yeah, it's, you know. Now, not all music is as deep.
There's a guy at Farmers Electric that will say, I just don't like this new music.
Okay,
Okay, that's what I told him. That's fine.
That's
You don't
fine.
Like it. I mean,
Yeah.
have you tried listening to some of it?
right.
No, I'm not listening.
You know, the great thing is there's plenty of it. Whichever genre is your itch, there's plenty of it.
Stuck
And
in a time warp. He listens to the Beatles. George Savage.
hey, man, we don't call names. We can worship through music. How else can we worship?
Study.
The word.
What's that?
Hearing the word.
Hearing the word. Actually sitting under the proclamation of the word. That's right. That's worship. How else?
Prayer.
Prayer. That's worship. It is.
Fellowship.
Fellowship is worship. To take the time and be intentional and be together and enjoy each other's company, that is worship. Wherever two or more are gathered in my name, that's not just Sunday morning worship, that's fellowship. What else? How else do we worship? Yeah. Yeah. The giving of your time, talents, and treasures. Absolutely. That's the beautiful thing, is the truth is the church, which is not the building, we reestablished that delineation. The church, which is us, the people, we can truly worship anywhere, doing anything that is not against God's teachings. You know, I mean, what you do unto others in the Lord's name, that's worship. Holding a door open, making someone, I mean, all of those things. And then it goes on when you can share why you're doing it. You know, that's always a wonderful thing, right? So to worship God, it says by edifying His people. What does edifying the saints mean? That's a great word. I love the word edify. Lift. A compliment is a great edifier. You know, just a text can be a great edifier, because you know what? It means somebody's thinking of you. It doesn't have to be a diatribe, but just, hey, I prayed for you. I'm thinking for you. How are you doing? It means a lot, you know. And in this day and age, the way we're trained, it can mean a whole lot. You know, text, email, all those things, phone call. Phone call is good, you know. We don't phone call as much, do we? Used to, we'd phone call. Every communication was a phone call, but now it's not as often. But to build up the body, to edify the body, and it, like I said, it can be personal, it can be corporate. You know, when folks walked on this campus Sunday and they saw those places that needed addressing had been repaired, it's edifying to go, oh man, that's good. That's repaired, and it edifies me, because I had two things that were a regular forethought. One was the heating air conditioner out here, that big behemoth. We didn't know how long we had her. And then the concerns in the Commons building, every time it rained, I had a concern that I would show up and a piece of it would be laying in the floor.
Well, even after it rained, that wasn't quite the worst of it. We said it's sitting up there.
That's right.
It's just sitting there.
That's right. It's sitting there with its
so
weight.
big that it's not going to dry
Yeah.
up
It's
quickly.
and its weight, And water always seeks the weakest place. Yeah.
And then there's that thing called gravity.
Gravity never takes a day off, trust me. So I'll tell you because my wife knows. Monday I was at home and I was doing some stuff in my closet. And I have a shelf. And so I've got this little ladder. And I was using the ladder to do something on this shelf. Well, the first time, I lost count of the steps. And so I come off a step too early. And I fall to my left. Now, the beautiful thing is I have 2 totes, a summer bed cover, and a pillow. So if you were going to fall, that's a pretty good place. It hurts your pride more than it hurts your body.
You better not hurt that hip.
But I did think to my hip,
Yeah.
and I did think to myself, my wife was outside with Mia, and I said, I'm not telling her. No blood, no foul. Right? Well, I'm up there working some more. Well, now my wife is in the room, my granddaughter's in the room, and she's all up in my business. And coming down off, and guess what? I lost count of the steps. And immediately my bride goes, are you okay? I'm like, well, yeah. I said, da-da-da. And I said, well, since you were here and you saw that, I'm going to go ahead and tell you, I did it earlier. So, but, anyway.
You just want some attention, wasn't you?
Oh, attention's never a bad thing. I would like to have gotten it a different way. Let's just put it to way. The attention was brief
Yeah.
and it didn't last.
Did
It
Mia
was
get an eyeful of it?
no, she missed it. So that was good. So granddad's still Superman. So through edifying people, now listen, we can worship the Lord in edifying the saints, but you know what? We can edify other people too. You freak people out when you just value them. You just love them. By the proclamation of the gospel, through actions and words when opportunity affords it, making disciples, just teaching people what the word says. What does it look like? How does it apply? How does it apply to me? And then baptize and teaching new believers. Helping the new mature. And what's so wonderful is in every fellowship, including ours, there is this varying levels of maturity. And so there is always room for growth and discipleship. Whether you're a young believer, whether you're a seasoned believer. And that is great. Now, the challenge we face is it doesn't fit on a t-shirt. It's great, but how do you communicate that? Now, when I was in Bible college at Criswell, I was forced, I use that word purposely, to take an evangelistic training called EE, Evangelism Explosion. Perhaps you've heard of it. With the man that wrote the program. Now, if you can imagine a evangelism tool that they can take an entire semester in Bible college for. Well, let me just say this. The man did a very good job. It was sound. It was biblically sound. But when it came to process, it was flawed. Because if you were going to work yourself through the EE program, you really needed somewhere between 30 and 45 minutes to walk someone through that process. Now, the problem with that is how often do you get 30 to 45 minutes? So it was a challenging. So we need to be able to hold those long conversations, but we also need to be able to be tactical and swift. Because sometimes you only get just a little bit.
That's all you're going to get. You ain't
Yeah,
gonna get
we're busy people. So I had boiled down this prior to this, and thank you. Did anyone notice that I left a letter off? My dad reminded me at dinner. He goes, son, I don't know if you know, but you left a letter off. I said, off of what? And he goes, you said to know him and to make him known, and you left off an N. I said, I did. And I'm like, I first blamed spell check.
Of course.
But K-N-O-W is a word. So spell check's not guilty. So anyway, but to know him and make him known. What is the mission of the church. All of these other things are true, acceptable, and applicable, but if you want to boil them down, I saw a guy posted a thing of boiled peanuts. And I sent back to him that emoji going, because I just can't. I can't. Are you a boy? Did they drug you into that cult? No. I'd ask Ronnie, but I know that's off the menu for him. They boil peanuts.
I don't get
You
that.
can eat them at the bowl.
No, listen, you never had them? No, I'm allergic.
He can't eat peanuts.
And listen, you're talking to a peanut butter lover. Reese's peanut butter cups are the pinnacle. I can't have it. But I really like Breeze's better, so
Oh, yeah.
it's a pretty good trade-off.
Roddy, on your deathbed, right before you take the Bible, I'll slip it over.
No.
Yeah.
I want a memory.
Jeff says it's a taste of glory on the way to glory.
No, I don't want that. Jesus is coming. Forget your peanut butter.
You just get raw peanuts
Put a lot of salt in it.
and water.
See, Miss Vicky, that's
Salt and water. Yeah, they're soft and salty.
Why would you want to do that when you can go get a jar of peanut butter?
it just
Because this doesn't have
just-
peanut butter.
okay. So the online poll is this: do you eat boiled peanuts? If you do, you might need to find a new church.
You know, you're missing out.
Every time I go to, it's Racetrack, right, that has them? Every time I go to Racetrack, I walk by there and I lift that lid and I look and I go, and I put them down and I think of you.
We'll make you some fresh.
I mean, I'll try them, but I just don't.
I mean,
No, they're boiled.
You're just smelling them before.
I am. I am judging them right out of the pot.
says the man who ate a chicken foot?
Yeah, I know. I was by accident, though. So what I'm going to do is next week I'm going to finish the rest of this, but I want to talk about being on mission. So does anyone remember the three groups that we mentioned specifically who were on mission in this week's study? Can anyone remember the three groups? The carriers, the four guys, right. So, it's interesting about these four guys because, they were committed to their friend. We don't know how long the man had been a paralytic. We aren't told the extent of the affliction, but all we know is there's a man who's paralyzed and four men who are willing to help him. And I toss this out just for your consideration because I don't really think there's an answer to it. But I don't think this man would have been an excessively large individual just based on people groups, time, those sort of things.
No, he's a small man.
So I think the fact that there were four of them could indicate they've come from a distance. Because another one of the groups that was there had come from across the region. And so I'm not going to get into this section tonight, but have you ever thought about the location? Tradition believes that this meeting began inside Peter's house, which would have been a large space, right? So I wonder, did Jesus come over, which would have been very normal, and he begins teaching or healing, and did the news go out and the crowd comes? Because it doesn't seem logical to me that Jesus would intentionally try to have a large meeting like the Sermon on the Mount in a small space. Yeah, he wasn't trying to have a Billy Graham crusade, in Starbucks,
He might have used MySpace instead of.
Yeah, he may have shot it out on MySpace. That's right. So it's interesting. Correct. Yes. And then the flip side. Now this is, I love to give you reason to think. On the flip side of that is this: if people came from distance, was this a scheduled event? Because you don't just snatch up your buddy, throw him on a cot, and go, let's just go for a walk from wherever. And if the religious leaders from a distance, because like if you came from Bethlehem, which is in Galilee, that's not next door. You know, so I don't know. The question on the table is, if this meeting occurred in Peter's house, which tradition, you know, was it something that was an announced event, or was it something that was going on, word got out, and a crowd came?
Or was it something that I need to go find Jesus? You know, even in the reading.
Okay.
There, when we get to town, you know where Jesus is?
Yeah, they just start looking. Yeah, that's true. They went to where his, yeah.
Yeah. On the flip side, it's not like you just showing the eyes or the whole crowd, but maybe there's always a crowd.
Right, well, that's the thing. You know, we don't know. Miss Vicki, thank you for your note, and we're trying our best to give you all the ambiance we can, and I'm trying to replete. Oh, and Jason Briscoe says, ugh. So it's an interesting event. The men carrying the bed were on mission. Do you remember what their mission was? What was their mission?
Get the boy there.
To help their friend. And by helping him, what did they think would help him?
Jesus.
Getting him in front of Jesus. So they're exercising faith, and they're displaying faith, and they're sacrificing for that faith because they're lugging their buddy, who knows how far, and those sort of things. So these four men were on mission, very clearly, very decisive. Who was another one of the three groups that was on mission?
The man on the map.
The man on the mat. He was on mission. He probably, well, let's back up. He had the most to gain or to lose on this deal.
And depending on his personality, I mean, he may have been wearing them other boys out.
Well,
God, get me there.
yeah,
You're
man,
walking too
yeah.
slow. Hurry up.
Yeah. They may have been motivated by love, but hey, they may have been motivated just to shut him up. I mean, you know, I know you guys have never done anything just so someone might leave you alone. You're too sanctified for that. But the man on the mat was on mission. He had the most to gain or lose. He had faith, because he wouldn't have allowed his friends, I don't think, to exercise all the effort if he didn't believe in the potential.
They knew something.
They believed something, right?
Yes.
Now the interesting thing is, the man on the mat is the only one that needed help. He's the only one that needed help to get there. And it's very interesting because we all need help to get to Jesus. Now, what that looks like can be 101 things. But, you know, like I said Sunday, I am so thankful for Les Fields. I'm so thankful for Dewey and others, because I needed help, and there was someone there to help me. This man needed help, which he would have remained in his need, what, if there weren't people who saw his need and responded to his need. And that is one of the greatest challenges today. One is we all have needs of some sort, right? Two is we can't fulfill all needs. And three, sometimes in responding to a need, there's risks. Risks happen, you know. Whether it's, you know, someone gets injured trying to help someone, whether you have a conversation that could, should, would help, but they want help, but they don't want that help. Have you ever helped someone and they go, well, I didn't want that help? You know, it's like the person says, we'll work for food, and you go, hey, I've got something you can do, and they go, oh, I'm not down for that. Wait a minute. I actually had a fellow one time, I went and bought food for him, took it back to him, and he said, no thanks. I looked at him, I said, well, your sign says you're hungry. He goes, well, I am. I don't get it. He goes, well, I don't eat McDonald's.
You ain't that hungry, man.
And it stunned me.
Right? The service station where you were at, right
Yeah.
across from McDonald's, well, one come up to me and asked if I could give him some money.
Right.
And I had $3. And I said, I'll give you some money. And I handed him $3. He got $3? And I'm like, yeah, $3. Is that not good enough?
I'm giving you everything I
I
have.
don't, this is what I've got.
Yeah, yeah. It's hard.
And
You can see needs and you can try to reply to needs. And can we all agree that not every perceived need is a life or death need?
one of them asked Miss Vicky if Super,
Last week,
Huh?
if
Super
I had
One.
any change, I said, what do you need? And he said, well, come on inside and I'll get you something. He said, that's okay.
Asked you for change. You asked them what they needed. They said food. You said, come in, I'll get you something. They said, no, that's not. Okay, yeah, yeah.
So it's still
No,
there.
there's not anything in that grocery store
Right.
that can meet my need, right? Yeah.
And
So,
he should have took her up on it because she would have hooked the boy up.
yeah. I'm telling you, you
And
know.
I would have said, dang, that fool was hungry, wasn't he?
And then the last group is the Pharisees and the teachers of the law. They've come together, and we talked about some of the reason they were there were sound and justified. Some of them not so much. So how do you think these three groups, what were some similarities that these three groups of people on mission may have had? Jesus. That was the, yeah, that was the son in which everyone evolved around, Jesus. What? Not just Jesus, but what? Being in the presence of Jesus. That all of these people came together and were on mission because of Jesus. And the differences were some were seeking for the sake of someone else. One was seeking for the sake of himself, and the others were seeking for a whole lot of different reasons. So, if mission drives us, don't we need to know who determines what the mission is? Now, Jeff, you have your grandkids pretty consistently, and you have 3 kiddos. If you get them in the car and you go, hey, what do you guys want for lunch? You guys all know, right? Because
There'll be at least 16 choices.
I've told you this before. So my son, he was still in high school. We had the night together. My wife was somewhere. And I said, son, we're going to go to Rockwell. We're going to go to a movie and dinner. We're going to have a dude's night. And son, I'll take you anywhere you want to go to eat in Rockwell. Anywhere you want to eat. No limits. He wanted to go to the Taco Bell Pizza Hut combo. So he have a personal pan pizza. That's a true story. I said, son, are you serious? He goes, yeah. And I said, let me make sure you understand what I'm
He's trying to
offering.
talk you out of his own decision.
I was.
Yes.
Because I had in mind steak. You know, dad's going to be a big spender for his son. We're going to be men. And I wrote the contract. Son, you can have anything you want. And I sat there, dadgummit, and ate that Taco Bell.
Good.
Because I didn't determine the mission. I let my son set the mission. If we're going to be on mission, we need to make sure who gets to set the mission. A lot of us as believers have a lot of good things and a lot of good goals and a lot of good. But the mission must always be set by Christ. He's the mission setter. And then secondly, how do we measure successfulness? A mission statement is a measuring stick. It states what you do, and it gives you a stick to measure by which you are doing it or not doing it. So if we're to be on mission, and we are, and Christ sets the mission, and he does, then the measure of mission successfulness is whose measure? Well, it's got to be Christ. Now, we can measure success in the church in a lot of different ways, can't we? What are some of the more traditional measuring sticks of success inside the church? Numbers, baby. You can still today talk to the right person. Hey, man, what are you running over there? Oh, man, we got 1,200. Now, what they don't tell you is we have 1,200 on the roll. Now, we only have 150 in the house. Oh, I'm already done. You can go back there. Oh, don't give me service as an excuse. Don't get numbers. What else? Baptisms. That's right. Man, we baptized 250 last year. Okay, well, how many are you discipling? How many are still here? Well, now, don't get me wrong, but yeah. What else? How about the facilities? We got the biggest worship center in town. Well, how much you putting in it? Oh, about 10%. How often? Once a week. So you have $2 million worth of facility that's being used at 10% once a week. Yeah? And that's a win? See, we have to be very careful because Christ is the measure, and we have to measure it the way he measures it. And so we'll pick this up. We'll finish the rest of this next week. Love you guys. Thank you for being here. Here comes all of our Awana kids. Say hi to the crowd. There they are. So, love you guys. Thank you for being here.